Hey everyone, good evening. This is Prasanna here. Today I'll take over the mantle from Tanya, who host this session with Arnab ji. Right. Welcome everyone. As usual, Startup Ki Pathshala has a fantastic session planned ahead for you guys. We'll get the proceedings started. We have Arun here. As it's a tradition, so it'll always be great to start the session with Arun sharing a few words, and then we'll kickstart. So, Arun, over to you.
Hi, it should be regarding the session or my experience with regards to say retaining talent. Which part do you want me to cover?
अरे फ्लोर तो आपका है, आप शुरू कीजिए.
See, like yeah, I mean, though like I have some companies, but since Chaigram is based out of Calcutta, I feel it would be prudent, if I like share my experience, like how we retain our talent or resources in Chaigram. But having said that, I must say we are into the QSR world where you don't even need any collar, right? If you are a chef, you don't need any collars. And the foremost thing which is important to retain your client would be to pay your salary on 10th. You can sell your kidney, lungs, and whatever organs you want. But if you don't pay the salaries on time, no matter how good the service is, how good the behaviors are, how liberal the policies are, no one is going to stick around. And I'm saying by virtue of having like 300 plus guys in our payroll. So I mean, the delegation part, right? I mean, the guy who manages our say, I mean, if you these, that, and that. So he's like, you guys fire and hire every day. So it's a very different experience, but I mean, what we do is like there are no hierarchy. If someone comes with some good ideas, with some genuine ideas, and if we see that he kind of possesses that fire in belly, that hunger in belly, we are definitely ready to promote him up. It could be the janitor, it could be a subordinate. There's absolutely no hierarchy. And that has definitely helped us stemming from my experience of running Chaigram for say 3 odd years. What more I would add? I mean, I would rather be all ears because Arnab is much more experienced than yours truly. And I'm definitely like looking forward to hear him this time. So Arnab, all yours.
Lovely, Arun. Lovely. Thanks for
Thanks
the
a lot.
quick intro. And before Arnabda talks, I think most of us know about Arnabda already, but let me just give a quick introduction about Arnabda, right? So that all of us kind of know his background a little more in a formal structure, and then we'll just directly jump into the session, right? So he is the co-founder and CEO of Yancha. Now, Yancha is an edtech platform which is focused on positive parenting and life skills. Another has also worked with McKinsey as an associate principal. He's worked for, I think, more than 9+ years there, if I'm right.
10 plus.
Yeah, I'm right,
10
right?
plus actually.
Okay, yeah. So he's actually won the Best Consultant Award worldwide in 2011. I know a lot of accolades there are already. Anand was running multiple active ventures. GSOE Hospitality is one. He's doing active strategic consulting right now. He is also the chair of innovation and entrepreneurship at Cognitive AI Institutes, right? Given his wide variety of work that he's done with across multiple other organizations and initiatives, we know that today we are in for a fantastic session where we are actually focusing on all of us as startup entrepreneurs. What are the typical challenges we have? How do we attract talent? How do we retain talent, right? What should we do? What is that we can learn from a person like Arnabda, which can help us to make our initiative and startup much better, right? So that's fundamentally what we'll be covering. So Arnabda, just wanted to kick this off with a very basic question. I know you have worked in the current Yancha, and you have done so much first principle researchers and you come up with a Yancha model. It'll be really nice if you can just help us understand your journey there, a little bit about Yancha, and then we can jump how it actually applies to all the startup founders today. So, dear Amira.
Yeah, thank you, Prasanna. Thank you, Arun, for the wonderful introduction. And it's actually my privilege because it's not that I am carrying any crystal ball out here. Obviously, I love to do diversified work. That's how I am entwined. And through that, I have gained few experiences which I'm going to share with you. Yancha was never started just like that because Yancha moves into a space of human minds, human mindsets, and all. While I was completely trained in management consulting, where these were kept aside and only the metrics of success, failures, hire and fire, go into the next meeting, and you have to consult your 5 clients in a single day, multiple presentations. These were all running around. But interestingly, what happened was we were actually doing a very interesting project of developing pipelines for large corporates, and there were 5 of them that we were given. And over a period of 5 years, these 5 large corporates were supposed to develop their CXO level leadership. And within that CXO level leadership, they had identified in those 5 organizations 60 each. So there were 300 candidates who were supposed to be groomed as leaders in the next 5 years. And what happened was, in general, we are attuned to think that, okay, whenever given a chance in a corporate ladder, I would just jump up into that without even thinking whether I am capable enough or something like that. But here the case was something different. Out of those 360 people said that we are not capable, we do not want to take up that job, and we don't think that we are prepared enough. Or they went all the way to even say that I'm fine with what I am doing, I do not want to take up this responsibility. So why was that? So then the probe happened. If it would have been 1 or 2 people, we wouldn't have bothered. It might happen. But 60 out of 300 was a huge number, and that too in that level. So what is this incompetency? What is this not taking of responsibility pointing into it? Then we had to do a deep research. We actually went to these people, understood what they were saying. Their saying were pointed back to their childhood, how they were actually dealt with, how they were nurtured with those inputs. So then we thought that it is not simply a problem that these people are saying. There must be something else. So we went on to have a discussion with parents of successful children, the quote unquote successful, like people who have been into great institutions, they are into great corporate life, and people feel that they are the successful people. So we went on to have a word with their parents as well. We went on to old age homes. We finally figured out that there are certain things which points back to yourself and how you are nurtured, how your paradigms are. Because whatever habits, whatever attitude that you're picking up, it is from your childhood. Your friends' paradigm become your paradigm. Your teachers' paradigms become your paradigms. So how are you going to come out of that? And through that, we developed this framework for the parents, understanding the fact that this becomes very difficult when you had already developed a certain code at a later date in your leadership journey. It will become very difficult to actually change that code, so that we can do it right from the beginning. But at the same time, when we are doing right from the beginning, can we also do it when people are taking up their startups? Because that is where they are nurturing a baby, and how that can be related. And that's where we brought in that Yancha model. Prasanna, if you can share that last slide where we had created this model regarding startups and talent management, how they can actually look at it. So what I was speaking about was that paradigm. So we have been shaped over the years with a lot of paradigms. And if you look at a typical middle class background where we had a majority of us has come up, you would have heard a lot of times that the parents are saying, because they are actually trying to prepare a bright future for you. So they are investing in certain things, and obviously they will not be able to buy certain things which you are demanding. And at that point in time, you keep on hearing a word no. Now that no sometimes creates a very different paradigm in startups. How? What happens is, when we keep on hearing that no, we think that when we grow up, money will be the solution to everything. So that I do not have to say anything to whenever somebody asks, I can throw money. Now, this is a paradigm that develops, and in a startup, in a business, what happens is this paradigm translates into that I have to have a lot of money, lot of funding, lot of resources, then only I will be successful. So if I am doing fine in my business, I will need more money to make it more successful. If I am failing, then also I need more money, because then I will throw that money and shy away from that failure that is happening. And that's how what happens is our paradigms get entwined, and we never look back into ourselves as to why that I was failing, or what was actually making me successful. Why do I need this? Those questions never come into being. So therefore, you need to change your paradigms. If your paradigms are not in line with what you want to be successful, then you will not look at yourself. You will not take that responsibility. So within that yourself, you also have heard about a lot of sessions that happened around a law of attraction, manifestation, and all those stuff. And people say that if you can actually do that, then you will be successful as an entrepreneur, as a person in itself. But never we actually discuss about the scientific method behind it. It is a very interesting nerve activation system that works in our brain, which is called a reticular activation system, RAS. So what happens is, if you have consciously been in a crowded conference room where every other people are talking between each other, you will find that that noise you do not actually take in. You do not understand what other people are saying. But at the same time, when somebody actually calls out within that noise your name, suddenly you are all ears. So RAS filters out that noise, but what is important is being shown to you. You go to a car showroom, you look at a particular model of that car, and you are thinking that, okay, I have to buy this car. You said you take a test drive, you come back, and you are taking a decision, and suddenly you are noticing that same model of that car everywhere. The car you are driving beside one, that is the same car. The car you're noticing in your neighborhood is the same car, and you're thinking, oh my god, this is so many cars available and I have not noticed. The cars were already there. What has happened is you have entwined your mind through the RAS system, filtering in that thing. And that's why you are noticing it. Your focus has gone there. So you have to build your thought in such a way that the RAS filters out the noise and make you prepare for your success. And when you have done that, the next is your prioritization of choices. Today, I have a conference to attend, or I have something where I can self develop myself. Do I choose that or this? Which is where I have to go? This is the prioritization of choices. We are saying about not quitting. Actually, if you look at all these 6 steps, we each can become one master classes. So I'm just giving you an overview of why we have created this. So no quitting. So why this quitting? I had developed, that we should never quit from my experience in class 8. So when I was in school, there was always a thing called that we have to create something, a charitable thing for the Blind Persons Association. And whoever were able to generate the most fundraising were recognized, given badges, certificates, and were actually called up in the podium and handed over. So I had always developed this, that many of my friends are getting it. Someday I will get it. So I had actually prepared in class 8 that I will be getting this. So this sort of a fundraising I need to do so that I will be in the top 5 people. And we were actually given some sort of those handcrafted materials created by these Blind Persons Association people, so that we can actually hand it over to them and get some fundraising done. Now, I thought I know few people who had earlier had helped me out in this. I kept on knocking at those doors. Unfortunately, no one was ready to actually buy it and pay. They were like, they would have thrown in a $10, a $20, a $50, or $100 max, but not structurally they are going to give me some money for this. And after knocking at almost 15 doors, I felt that this time also I am actually not going to get this, because I have not been able to generate that fund I was looking at. So I was planning to come back home. Then I suddenly realized that there is another home that I have not knocked, because that are our just new neighbors who had just shifted in. And I do not have much relationship with them developed that I can go and tell them to do this. But I thought that I let me still try. I went there. I knocked the uncle and auntie who were there. They were very cordial. They came up, asked me why I was raising that. And interestingly, it came up that they were actually doing something where they were needing this sort of papers. And finally, they actually paid me an amount of money, and I got all the materials I was having with me and sold off. That raised me to that top five pointers. And when I look back, I realize that if I had actually that day thinking that, okay, 15 doors have closed for me, I had not knocked on that 16th door, I would have actually quit. And I would not have got into that top five accolades that the school was giving. At that point in time, I realized that quitting is never an option. And after that, from that day onwards, from class 8 onwards, I still believe that even if there are lows in your life, and I have been through many such instances in my personal life as well as career, I had always kept going because I believe that quitting is never an option. And it was again reinforced this time when I was having a one-on-one conversation with Mr. Arjun Sen, whose movie was done on him. I wanted to talk by Abhishek Bachchan. It was his story. And he says that unquitting is the only journey that you can take in your life. And that's where you self develop. So self is a very important aspect. So that's why Y is yourself. Yancha. A is accelerate. Once you are conscious about that, the accelerate portion comes in into your business, where you declare openly. What happens is, in majority of the startups, we always fear declaring certain things, fearing that what if we do not achieve it, and what will the embarrassment be in front of my team if I could not achieve that particular thing that I openly declared. But on the contrary, if you have openly declared, you will find that your team will find value in that, and they will rally around to actually get that done. So how can you actually declare and make your team in that same page so that they also rally around you, is where you should start focusing on. Once you have declared, the next part is focusing. It should not be that you give a lot of high blowing discussions, you gave them a motivational speech, and your focus is somewhere else. Then this jailing will not happen with your team. It will only happen when they see that you are also focused, and we should rally behind this person so that we overall grow together. Then only this focus can work. And this elephant word is a very interesting thing. What happens is, we always have an end goal that we want to build a multi-million-dollar enterprise. That is definitely an end goal that we want to achieve. But you have to look at your first $100. You have to look at your first $1,000. How did you make it? Now, if your first 1,000 can be replicated 10 times, it becomes $100,000. So how do you micromanage it? You cannot eat an elephant in a single day, right? So you have to eat it bite by bite. It is simply like that. You have to understand how you can actually break it down into smaller segments so that you achieve this, repeat the same process, and figure out whether that is working or not, so that you are doing it forward. And at the same time, if there are certain learnings, you can learn, fail fast, and again move forward, rather than you take that end goal and try to do certain things in such a bigger way that you fall flat on your face and you are not even in that position to come up. So that's what we do. And no tomorrow, after the day before yesterday's incident of the Air India flight, I don't think I have to remind anybody. There is really no tomorrow. So we have to do whatever we are thinking that it can be done tomorrow, try doing it today. That decision, that action. Because see, entrepreneurs are not somebody who will just have those strategies, things in place and keep on discussing about it. Entrepreneurs are the ones who knows that, okay, I have developed a strategy. I now have to take action. We are execution specialists and not analysis paralysis person. If we keep on over analyzing things, thinking that, okay, tomorrow something will be a brighter tomorrow, then only I will take this plunge, nothing will happen in entrepreneurship. And if you understand that there is no tomorrow, then you have a very different relationship with your failure. The failure is something that gives you an opportunity to learn. And as long as you do not repeat that same mistake, you are on your path towards success. New approach to leadership. In leadership, what we see in general is the moment people tend to look at the word leadership, they think that, okay, everything is like people are born leaders. So people will give examples from maybe sporting in India, Sourav Ganguly. He's a born leader. So how can somebody be a Sourav Ganguly? Nobody can imitate that. Obviously, nobody can imitate that. But when you are on your path to entrepreneurship, you are the one who have to take charge of it. It cannot be left to somebody else to take that. So you have to step up to lead. But unfortunately, the system that we are actually been going through since our childhood has never encouraged that sort of a discussion. What happens is, whenever there are certain events in school, some people will step up, and those are the ones who are nurtured to do, not as a continual process that, okay, somebody has not lifted up. Can we nurture them towards that? Then perhaps we could have seen more leaders. That has never happened. Why it has never happened? If you see in schools, in colleges, if a teacher asks a question, many students who you perceive as the best students are the ones who will actually not put up their hands. So I actually asked one of my teachers, why do you think that this is happening? His explanation was very interesting. He said that this is a fear of failure that they're facing, because they are thinking that since they are considered as the best student, and if they step up with their hands up and they come up with a wrong answer, perhaps they would be laughed at. It's such a small, trivial thing, but so much of insecurity that we are harboring in ourselves. And from that on, suppose you have gone into a job and you think that if I own up my responsibility, perhaps my job will go. Sometimes there is a conflict. Your parents would have actually scolded you. You would have said that that person had started this. In an exam, you have not done well. The teacher has set a very difficult question paper. This is how we had always been shifting our onus. But in entrepreneurship, we will never be able to shift that onus. So how we can be accountable, to step up, to have those responsibility, and also to work through instincts when you are being bombarded with competition and all those stuff. Many of you might have heard about an organization called 𝐬𝐻. 𝐬𝐻 was developed by 3 people at the same time when Nokia was investing $8 billion where to actually in an organization called Navtech, who were putting up sensors in roads to figure out the road traffic conditions. While these guys sitting in Israel with normal computers were developing a system where the live users were sending them live traffic updates. And through that system, they developed a company called 𝐬𝐻, which was later sold to become a $1.2 billion deal to Google. So it is always about your instincts. There can be a lot of competitions. There would be a large corporations who might eat you out. But if you really know what you're doing and you have taken up and stepped up into that role of a leader, you will be able to figure out how I can still navigate. And you will therefore see, in face of competition, a lot of people will say that this Walmart undercut me. There are a lot of structured organizations coming in. Therefore, a roadside retailer is not working. While you go into absolute interior in a tier 2 city, you find that retailer is working fine. How is he doing it? He's doing it because of that leadership capability that he has built in. Now, holistic talent retention, we call it energy, because what sort of energy as a leader are you bringing into the table? If your energy levels, you suppose you had come out of a bit of conflict and you are now leading into a team, you are bringing in a very negative aspect into the team discussion. So if you are not emotionally well-rounded, you will not be able to handle that discussion. When you're taking that momentum, Is this a momentum that you are actually trying to figure out that, okay, I am setting a momentum for my team to run so that I can watch from behind, see how they're running? Or I am transparent enough to give them a momentum through my push. At the same time, I am also going to take up that challenge. That's how a momentum is built. And once the momentum is built, am I ready to take that assessments for myself as well as my team, that whether that energy is working towards that? Then I can actually figure out who are my better performers. Then I can actually figure out who needs a sort of handholding. And at the same time, I also then will be able to figure out who can be let go and who can not work in alignment with our vision. That is where a holistic talent retention works. And when you are actually working towards that, the authority for inspiration, the moment we hear the word authority, we think that, okay, I am somebody in a pedestal, and therefore I will only be arrogant, we will only be a taskmaster. Even I have seen founders who thinks that since I am in a startup, I will not be able to compensate with a lot of parks or exquisite bonuses or any other things. Let me attract them by throwing some money into lifestyle development, into some parties and all those stuff, so that they are indebted to me since I am in an authoritative position. It does not work like that. You have to inspire them. And we call it a confident humility, where rather than you becoming the smartest person, you actually develop a team in such a way that everyone contributes towards that. So when you are saying that, okay, today I think according to my vision, these are the 5 pointers, do you open it up for your team to say, what do you think your suggestions are in it? Does that mean that you have to take all the suggestions? It's a strict no. But it opens up the team to feel that, yes, I should contribute and therefore I have a value in it. So therefore, you are inspiring that person to contribute. And through that, you actually figure out whether they are the right contributors towards my organization. Recognition. What happens is, in general, when we are in an authority position, we think that we can actually openly just blame certain difficulties that has happened and adversities that we are facing into somebody who are not at my pedestal. So my employees can be actually blamed off in front of a client, and we openly say that. That is not something what a particular leader who is conscious enough will do. What they will do is they will take that onus on themselves publicly, while they will have this issues deliberation done privately. And that's what a leader needs to understand. There could be vulnerability also for the leader. Leader does not mean that the leader has become a god. That leader is a human being. So there could be some options where you will do some mistakes. There will be vulnerable positions. But you have to come up with an open, transparent mechanism of communication, which you can do that. Then a lot of learning can happen. And through that learning, through this entire 6-step framework, you will be on your path to success. That is how we actually go about it. I just gave you in a nutshell, but this can all individually can become individual classes. Yeah, please.
That's so true. That's true. Thanks, Arnab. I think most of us wouldn't have realized this. We call it a cheat sheet, right? This single slide is kind of like a cheat sheet. इसके एक point can be actually expanded further, and most of the answers for which we have all come to this session, the answer kind of lies here. Now it's a matter of double clicking on that and kind of expanding that to understand, right? So
Absolutely.
I have a question.
another, yeah. So another, what I'll do is we'll keep this framework. I'll stop the screen share in some time, right? So we'll keep this framework, but we will kind of break it down from the top. Given the participants who have come here, most of them are in the early stage of their starters. Most of them are thinking about it. Most of them are going through the journey, right? So we'll start from the top in terms of the talent retention, and then we'll start breaking it down, right? So one of the before talking about the employees, we would really love to understand your view on the concept of a co-founder fit, right? So most of the startup founders are solo entrepreneurs. They're basically saying, okay, how do I go about making a decision of finding a co-founder? Do I even need one? How do I look for this? How do I solve this puzzle of finding a co-founder, right? So help us understand how to think about this.
Prasanna, I must say that this is one of the.
Can I interrupt for a moment?
Sure,
Okay,
sure,
he
sure.
has taken down the PPT. I was just
Yeah.
about to say. Thank you, Prasanna.
Yeah. So, Prasanna, I must say that this is one of the most underestimated decision that people tend to think. Because what happens is, in general, while we are discussing about going into a startup world, we discuss a lot with our friends or colleagues or somebody in our family, and we think that we have found somebody, and therefore that is going to be my co-founder. And that's where a disaster starts happening. And there are a lot of failures that has happened because of not really figuring out who is my right co-founder. People thought that he is my brother, so therefore he is my right co-founder. People thought that he is my friend for life, therefore he is my right co-founder. People thought this colleague has given me so much in my corporate life, so when I transition into startup, he should be the one who should be beside me as my co-founder. And I have seen in all these things how drastically things can change. And at that point in time, you are kept in the thinking, what happened? So we should never underestimate this thing and never look at that, okay, since it is readily available, we should do that. If certain criteria matches and you are in alignment with that vision, definitely it works. But if it does not, then please take a note and be friends for life rather than be a hostile co-founder. That's what I would always love to say. So how do we look at it? We call it a founding trinity. The first and foremost is you have to look at what sort of a complementary competence this person brings onto the table. What are the superpowers they are filling up which I might be lacking, or it might be complementing what strength I have? You won't believe, Prasanna, when I was actually consulting one of these co-founders in Bangalore, what happened was they were both brilliant engineers. They were tech founders and they had spent 40 lakhs building features nobody asked for, because they thought that they are two tech geeks and they are going to be the next big Mark Zuckerbergs or the Bill Gates or the likes. And 18 months later, they had an amazing product, but nobody knew what to do with it because they were both technical people who do not know even how to figure out what the customer wants, what should be my sale challenges. So therefore, a magic thing that I'm going to tell you is we always talk about MVP in prototyping, right? What I want to propose is in a co-founder fit, try to figure out whether you have this MVP triangle. Somebody needs to bring in to the table that they can make certain things. So that's that aim. Somebody should be there who will constantly question you and validate that. So that's the V. And somebody should be there who would be able to take that and present it to the world. So that's the P. So this MVP triangle, that can be either two people, three people, four people, doesn't matter. Whether these things are there in the team is very important to figure out. So first is complementary competence, then look for this MVP triangle. The second is character compatibility. Somebody might be too flamboyant to show off, do a lot of PR about certain things, while somebody wants to only build, they do not want to come up. They can become complementary to each other as long as they are not thinking in the lines that, oh, I am putting so much of effort and this guy is getting accolades, while the other guy thinks that since I am the face, I am the organization. If that is the case, then it does not have a perfect fit. But if it not like that, then you can move ahead. So what happens is one of the co-founders had said that, okay, I want to, when there were certain crises happening, one of them said that we have to immediately pivot. The other said, no, let's double down on sales. But one thing that was there, they were both committed to the transparency and the team responsibility. If this is the case, then you can actually come out of that storm, and through that, you will emerge stronger. The third is the commitment equilibrium. everybody should be having some sort of skin in the game. It should not be that somebody is taking only the owners, the others are sitting in the fence. If for some reason, if this happens that in the next 12 months, you have to only figure out how to go about refueling your business through funding, and you are supposed, both of your co-founders have to step down and do not take a salary for the next 12 months. If the answer here isn't clear or a surefire commitmental yes, then obviously there is a problem. And therefore, what happens is, whenever you are looking for it, look for these three things as an equilibrium and also have these three complementary capabilities. Then only you will be able to figure out who should be working with me. Otherwise, what happens is you are actually preparing yourself for a disastrous heartburn, and then you will be keeping on probing against it. Then there would be a lot of negativities. You will ask a lot of things. You will keep on telling other people about it, and it will be a lot of negativity and hostility, which can be completely prevented if you can look at it from a very pragmatic way. That's my take, Prasanna.
Lovely, Anvada. That's years of experience and insights summarized, right? It's actually a very nice. The founding trinity is a fantastic framework to kind of think about it. All the founders here meet with so many people within the BE community, outside, but always will be thinking one step forward, two steps backward. Ki yaar, is this a co-founder material person whom I need to engage further, right?
And
So
just a word of caution here. Somebody already have their co-founders. Please just don't go into a shell today just because Arnab sir has said this, and tomorrow fire your co-founder. Try to figure out how can you gel that.
right,
That
right.
is the thing. That's where your consciousness comes. That's where you have to look inner rather than the external parameters.
That's so true. मंडे जाके अर्नब दा ने बोल दिया तो चलो शुरू करते हैं
चलो
फ्रेम
शुरू
वर्क
करते
अप्लाई
हैं इसको
करना.
फायर करना. So it doesn't work like that. You have
Yeah,
to be patient enough to understand, and when you figure out that yes, the values are not aligning, there can be a very golden handshake that can be done through that as well.
correct, correct. At least this helps to start the conversation and move forward on that particular piece.
Absolutely.
Right. Lovely. Another, so we discussed about co-founder, right? How do we find a co-founder? What's the framework for it? In a way, the same kind of question applies when it comes to even employees.
Absolutely.
Right, juniors हो या seniors जो भी है, for as a founder half of the time we spend time only on interviewing, right? Because you're trying to find talent and trying to get people, and every choice that you make will create a very big impact on the early stage of the company's culture and everything, right? And obviously all founders really want to go and attract the top tier talent, but मन में होता है कि यार I can't pay this much, right? I can't compete with the biggies who have bigger checks. Now, how do I go and find or attract these talents, right? So we have all read about saying, okay, pay is not the primary thing, but beyond pay, what are the other things that I need to have as a founder so that I can go and attract the top talent? What are your insights on that, Amita?
Yeah. So again, I will say that there is a very interesting paradox here. What happens is, when people leave, generally this question comes. Perhaps I was unable to pay the royalty that they were looking at in the careers. That's why they had left. Perhaps I had not been able to give them those perks, those benefits. They had left us. Perhaps since Deloitte or the McKinseys were paying so much, how can I actually even compete with them? That's why these are not there. You know, this sounds prima facie as a very interesting challenge to have. And on top of that, you will find people who will show empathy towards these external problems. What a co-founder or a founder is going through when they're trying to hire or retain a talent. But interestingly, have you ever thought of, when at least you have got hold of this sort of a people to actually go through your vision and they liked that vision and they joined, what are you providing them that made them leave? Nobody does that introspection, because again, what I said is, taking that responsibility onus has never happened with us. We always try to shift blame onto something because that is a comfortable position for all of us, and therefore we keep on shifting this towards something other organizations giving great value. this is something I will give you a very interesting example of one of our consulting clients. He said that he had lost three CTOs. Two of them he had been able to woo from Google. And yet, within a span of 4 years, three of them had left. And he said that because perhaps they were actually looking for greener pastures. Obviously, if you look at into those exit interviews, those are HR questionnaires. And in that HR questionnaire, nobody is going to write, it's because of you I am leaving. They will obviously write that I'm looking for greener pastures and that's why I'm leaving. But when we actually made that particular person probe how this decision making was happening when the CTO was there, you won't believe there were 47 interruptions, 153 Spock changes, and 23 interpretations which were not in alignment with the CTO as well as the CEO in a single week.
In a week.
In a single week. In a single
My
week.
God. Oh.
Now imagine this person staying with you for 1.5 years, going through this sort of challenges, and on top of that, your indecision, your analysis paralysis, not letting that product see the light of the day, although you are saying something big and fanatic, which has actually attracted me to that organization, which is not mapping around. And what happens is, he actually told him that I did not leave Google to become a waiter.
Mm.
That also he has said, but he never took a notice of it because he was not conscious. When we gave them this, you won't believe he was actually within a span of 6 months was able to regain those two people back. And on top of that, those two people referred six other people into that organization when they found that clarity. So when you cannot actually compete in terms of money or perks that are high level corporate with a student or a young employee that is coming in. Even in ICICI Bank, I was doing a project. In their research, they have found that Gen Z, people who are joining in after college, and up to the age of 27, 28, 30 also, when they're living within a span of maybe 14 to 16 months, and nobody is giving a particular reason. So we had an opportunity to write a case study about it. So we had done 200 exit interviews, not a typical HR questionnaire, but one-on-one probes. And interestingly, the major portion of it was uninspiring leadership. If you are unable to attract a talent through a lot of pay packages, you will never be able to sustain it. What happens is tomorrow some of your competitors might poach them out. But if you can actually do that through this inspiration, then they will stay. Will they not be approached by any others? They will be definitely. But how can you give them a pathway which they cannot grow there? What happens is if you are in a corporate, you will take maybe 6 years to reach a particular level. Here, because you have been given an opportunity to deliver and you have been given a decision making framework and autonomy, you are growing in 19 months, which could have taken 6 years. Show them that pathway, actually lead them through that. If you can lead them, that sort of an employee will attract more 10 such. And what we are looking at it is we are not looking at those people who just want to contribute into 9 to 5, because that's not sort of a job we are looking at in a startup. There will be some sort of a chaos. And interestingly, the new generation people, they can actually match that momentum of the so-called VUCA world that we say, that volatile, ambiguous, complex, and all those stuff, uncertain things, they are attuned to it. So they can match that energy, but you have to show them that pathway, how you are going to do that, how you are achieving it. And you have to also accept that some people at some point in time will look for better opportunities and leave. Can they become your brand ambassadors? Rather than making it difficult for them, can you make their path so smooth that they start referring you? Can you create an interesting alumni network which talks about how the inspiration works in this company so that other youngsters want to join you to get that learning pathway to develop their career? there are interesting things that you can actually do to attract. Obviously, these are few things. It can take a whole gamut of understanding to do this, but you can start small by utilizing these pointers.
Actually, yeah, so true on that. Like Nidhi in the chat is also saying that they do look for inspirations. They would look for honesty. Gen Z is something which
Transparency
really
also.
likes.
Sometimes the leaders are not transparent enough. They
That's
think
true.
that
That's true.
we are going to keep it to ourselves, because especially when it comes to negative news, we try
Right.
to put it in the garb of positivity, which shows a lack of transparency, and that also is driving you away, because they think that we are not in the same page with what the founder is doing, and might someday this founder might move away and I will be on the dark. Let me leave this organization and go where I will find this sort of a psychological safety. So
Right.
these sort of
Right.
things we have to understand.
That's so true. That's so true. Right. So
Yes.
yeah. So tactically speaking, obviously during the interview stage, especially if you're a startup, a small brand, the first interaction you have with the candidate is you're literally pitching your company. Right. You're not
Absolutely.
just pitching it to the investors. You're pitching it to the employees too. Right. You're literally telling your story. You're pitching your company, your vision, and then the evaluation goes through. So that's one particular piece you typically do in the early stages, right? I'm just taking a couple of questions which is coming in the chat, right? So for
Sure.
Yeah.
instance, Atish has
Prasanna,
basically,
I have a question. If you
yeah,
can take
Sangeeta,
it.
go ahead.
If
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
please go ahead.
Okay. My question is for Arnab. Arnab, this
Yeah,
is
please.
Dr. Sangeeta Jha from IIM Calcutta.
Yes, Sangeeta
So
ji, please go
since
ahead.
last more than 13 plus years, I have been into HRD and HRM consultancy for top and mid-sized corporate. And then when, as a complementary, I started these HRM services
Mhm.
for MSME or startups
Mhm.
or even NGOs,
Mhm.
complementary, I started as my wish. I found the difficulties and the kind of limitations, restrictions, everything is different
Mhm.
from top and mid-sized corporate. Now, startup, NGO, or MSMEs, they don't mind hiring right person at the right price. This is what my experience of
Mhm.
12, 13 plus years. They, because they take it as investment. So talent acquisition is not a problem for them. Talent retention is a problem for them. Why I'm telling you? Because I need a solution from you, Arnab.
Mhm.
Because these 15 years, just 15 years back, people who did MBA or whatever courses, management courses or IIT or whatever, this generation, 15 years back generation, what I found in talent acquisition, that they lack in perspective, they lack in vision oriented lookout, they lack in patience. And like, it's like, if I'm giving you 30,000, if someone give you 35,000, they will just shift. So what you are saying, that leadership orientation, the career perspective and everything, since last 15 years of the generation who like what educated in MBA or all these things, I did not find any focus and right perspective in them. They are
Absolutely.
just running for, they are so impulsive, they just run for, अच्छा वहां पर 5,000 ज्यादा मिल रहा है, that means end of the month मैं 5,000 ज्यादा स्विगी जोमेटो या शॉपिंग मॉल पे खर्च कर सकती हूँ. That
Absolutely.
is a big challenge for me, where top corporates, middle sized corporates, what I found in my consulting, but MSME startup, इस पे ये बहुत ज्यादा होता है. So how would you advise me to address these issues? Because whoever joined your session is basically startup or MSME.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They can spend, but they cannot retain for few thousands. Please, your answer.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sangeeta, that you asked this question. This is so true. And what happens is, on top of this, they also feel entitled. Whatever you
Exactly.
said. On top of that, they feel entitled, and at the same time, their attention span is so low because of the social media, the exposure to this real
They're
culture. They
impulsive.
are so
Since last
impulsive,
15 years, they're so
and
impulsive.
this is the reason. This is basically the reason. What has happened is that you will find that these are the ones who will not be stable even in, if you are saying that 5,000 more, I will say not even 5,000. I have seen 1,000, 2,000 more also. Why is this happening is because they have never been given those clarity, and that's where more sort of a founder led leadership journey in startups and MSMEs are required. Because here, when you are attracting a talent, you are not looking for this sort of people. When they are becoming too much of entitled, if you have to figure out whether they can contribute, if they can contribute, you have to put them into that journey of contribution. If they can be put into a journey of contribution, and those recognition and accolades can come to them, then you will find that through that, because they are hungry for accolades because of social media, and if you
Exactly.
can, if you can give them into that sort of an incentivized mechanism, that okay, your contribution matters and you're recognized at a pedestal, what happens is then they start moving into that direction. At that point in time, I've also seen that these people are not lured by those 1,000, 2,000 hikes. They are now lured by something I can contribute. We have to actually change the way we are actually treating them. Why are they looking at it? Because they are thinking, okay, मैं तो entitled ही हूँ, so मैं जहां भी जाऊंगा वे entitlement रह जाएगा, so then I will be on the top. When you can put them into that perspective that you are creating some impact and you are recognized, then they have that urge to contribute. Then you can take them on that fold and then prepare them for the next leap. At that point in time, if that person even leaves, he will be your biggest champion. That is how we are actually doing a lot of consultancy, and one of the reasons we had actually started Yancha is to actually cater from the childhood, so that the parents are also conscious, rather than preparing them with so much of entitlement, how can we actually prepare them for the path they will inevitably have to walk.
Okay. My next question would be, when in last 15 years of all talent or student or employee acquisition, what I found that they are truly perspectiveless because of our education system. They are truly visionless based on our education system. They are syllabus led and they are morely like suggestion led. पास करना है, पास कर जाओ, कोई भी प्रोफेशन पे है. So this is what, and degree मिलना है. So this is what is the most focused areas for this generation. Now, now, now you have to bridge these. एक है जनरेशन जो आपको स्टार्टअप और एमएसएमई या स्मॉल साइज कॉर्पोरेट पे आप एम्प्लॉय करना चाहते हो, हु आर टोटली पर्सपेक्टिव और विजन एंड होता है ना क्या अटेंशन, ये सब में डेफिशिएटेड है. और एक है ये स्टार्टअप एंड एमएसएमईज हु द फाउंडर को फाउंडर दे देमसेल्व्स आर फाइटिंग, इट्स लाइक फायर फाइटिंग, नॉट फाइटिंग, फायर फाइटिंग. तो उनको उनको ग्रूम अप करने के लिए मैं अपने एम्प्लॉय के संग कितना टाइम बिता सकती हूँ कि उसको पर्सपेक्टिव, क्योंकि दे आर द इल एजुकेशन सिस्टम चिल्ड्रन. मैं अपना टाइम बर्बाद करूं कि उसको विजन दू, पर्सपेक्टिव दू, जिंदगी का एक मोशन, मतलब कुछ भी हो. So there is the biggest problem I faced in my career. Can you bridge this? क्योंकि फाउंडर के पास उतना टाइम होगा नहीं, फायर फाइटिंग मोड पे है. और
Exactly. So that is precisely the challenge that the startups and the MSMEs are facing. What happens is we always think it from a scarcity mindset. We think that मैं तो fight कर रहा हूँ अपना startup में, and therefore why should I even bother about developing this person who is entitled and who does not have that mindset to even contribute to my
right,
organization. And
that
what
is
happens
the
is,
lack of our education system itself.
Yes, yes,
It's not
absolutely.
their problem. Anyway,
Absolutely.
that's different. Please
That
advise.
yeah, that in itself is there, because we cannot always say that the things will suddenly change. Things will not change. And out of this education system itself also, you will find that obviously if 70% of people who are coming out feeling that I am entitled and we are the biggest disruptors and all those stuff, there are still 20% focused people also who are coming out.
They will join mid-size and big-size corporates. Why would
Not
they
necessarily.
join
Not necessarily.
founder-based MSME?
Not necessarily. I have been through that journey. I have seen. Not necessarily. What happens is they generally have a tendency towards that. But
Yes.
if you can reach them and actually have a word with them regarding what sort of a vision you have and why you are building it, there are people who actually want to contribute towards this sort of, because some people do not want to take up the onus of leaving a job and doing a startup. They can be good entrepreneurs. They can take onus. If you have given them a particular piece of work, they can take it to a very different level. Those identifications are not happening. What happens is
Exactly.
we are
Right,
being
right,
thrown
right.
with a lot of CVs, which CVs are running around because these are the ones who are moving from one organization to the other. And we, on
True.
top of it, feel that, okay, we will only look at that. We are not willing to spend our time with the educational
We
institutions.
cannot spend our time, invest our time, that because for the MSME and startup founders, time is the money. So they
That
will
time is
rather
the
invest
money.
it in networking,
That is
marketing, and all these
precisely
things.
that is precisely, Sandeep.
Arnavda, let's take
Yeah.
up the next question then from
Yeah,
Puneet
we will take
Mukherjee.
up, just to give a perspective on this question. What happens is that we always think that we are firefighting, we are spending time, so we do not have time on actually developing our employees and all those stuff. What happens in the long run is, since we are not developing, we all the more keep on firefighting, and at the end of the day, perhaps my organization is also not in that right place. We also have to figure out, why are we firefighting? Is it necessary firefighting, or it is something which we can actually do, while we can figure out which are the employees we can contribute towards our less firefighting? Then together this can work. We always tend to shift that onus into that these people are unentitled, they will always behave like this, and therefore we should not develop them. If we can develop them, they can actually help us in reducing our firefighting. How can we look at that and prepare it, is where we should be leading toward. Yeah.
Nice,
Okay,
Arnab.
convinced.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, another, what I'll do is I'll just club a couple of questions and I will just take it as a framework for you to basically think about it and
Sure.
say, right?
Absolutely.
On a daily, in a very practical basis, classical thing. One is Atish has asked one question saying, hey, even if a fresher, we've just discussed some of the immaturities of a fresher who comes in. A fresher say, यार मुझे उस level का benchmark का salary चाहिए, right? So the founders do interact with those people, with those kind of candidates, right? The other interesting thing is Kartavya Nidhi has basically said, saying, hey, if I appreciate a team member, all of a sudden they feel entitled, right? So how do I balance that? So this just leads to a couple of things, because the founder holds the strategy, sorry, founder holds the culture of the organization, right?
Hmm.
Keeping these things in mind, how would you advise a founder? What type of elements of the early cultural habits they need to kind of instill? So just help us think through this piece.
Yeah. So interestingly, what happens is, when you're starting out as a startup, or any a business for that sort of, what happens is the earliest 5-10 hires, and the way the culture is not something that should be written down only for a mission statement. It is what you keep on following when nobody is watching you. That's where the founder needs to prepare that culture. And the first 5-10 hires should be such that this culture is taken down to that level, which then will be trickled down to the next level of hires, as well as when the company is scaling up. And at that point in time, you also have to keep in mind that, okay, sometimes what happens is, during that period, since you had been preparing it as your core team that has built it up from 0 to 1, you are thinking, okay, these people now deserve an accolade, so they should be promoted to a particular level. Definitely they should be promoted, but definitely not in that role which does not suffice them. So we were actually doing a work with a founder in Mumbai. What happened was he was actually trying to promote one of his earliest sales guys into a VP of sales position. What happens is this guy was a brilliant sales executioner, but he had done it himself, but never laid down a process. He will never be a good fit for that VP position because he will not be able to sit down and give you step by step what needs to be done for a scale. So what happened was, after our suggestion, a VP was hired, and then both of them were taken together in a mentor-mentee relationship to create the process that needs for a scale up from a 15-member team towards a 60-member team. And there, what happens was he was also not unsatisfied, knowing pretty well that I will not be able to contribute this. And this guy was given in such a position by not making him entitled, saying that, okay, since you are the VP of sales, therefore you are the one who will be calling the shots. So relationship was built in such a way that they both were contributing towards the one commonality, that we have to define a process of sales in such a way that our sales targets can be achieved. So this is the culture that we need to bring in. Sometimes what happens is, as a initial culture, since we are building the foundational team, and obviously, as Sangeeta mentioned, there is an entitlement, no doubt about it. Many people feel that what's the point? They will keep on disturbing your initial culture, but put them into that journey. And if you see that the vision and not aligned with your, obviously there are timestamps that we can actually discuss how we actually go about it. And if it does not work, it's better to let it go rather than trying to nurture somebody who will never take up. You will figure out while you are nurturing this sort of people, there will be few people who will actually become good contributors, while others will still be the disruptors, who do not take up the learning, who do not want to contribute. Those are the persons who are not the right fit. Let them go. That is the right time you will able to figure out who would be the next replacements.
Yeah, makes sense. So another, I'll just call in Tuhin to ask a question. So he had typed in the question, but Tuhin, if you can just unmute yourself and ask, that'd be great.
Yeah, good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Uh, Good evening, Dada. It was a wonderful session, and the presentation led me to know more about the subject that you have already spoken. It's kind of more of extension of Sangeeta's question. It takes definitely, I'm totally with you. It takes lots of time to create a culture with the new recruits. What I personally think when I want to ask, because although it takes lots of time to understand on the to discuss on this topic, like the value system, like we are working on a specific subject called sustainability and everything. When there are new recruits, like the talents, firstly might be if there are talents, they might be looking for, say, sometime for the perks. And even after that, if they are taking they are being part of the startups or the MSMEs, what I have generally found, I'm sharing my experience only, they take it as a learning phase, like for working for 1 or 2 years, and with a very good note, they sometimes leave. So like we as a startup and MSMEs, like in the industrial phase when we used to work, all the HRs for the bigger industries, they are all connected. Person A were moving from organization one, organization B, they all were connected. But for the MSMEs and startups, we don't have that much HR system with us, and we're not connected, so we are not getting in touch of the right talents. People will be there. People will definitely go because everybody has their own aspirations. So, what is your experience? How you have found to tackle this problem? Like the MSMEs, the startups will be emerging out, and they will definitely look for new talents.
Hmm.
I just want to know your experience as you were working long with number of case studies and organizations.
Hmm. Interestingly, it's a very good question that you put up. This is exactly what many founders are trying to cope up with nowadays. Because what happens is, in a startup, in a chaotic scenario, we cannot have all systems in place which will work wonders. So that can never happen. What happens is, obviously, you have to first figure out why you are recruiting that person, for what role. Generally what happens is we tend to create a generalized JD and try to send it across to our network and try to get some referrals out of it. This is in general a, a typical cases we follow when we do not have laid down HR policies or HR management systems, which, or maybe HR advisors which work with us. And what happens is from that, if somebody is there, we try to force fit into the JD. And this is how the recruitment happens. And maybe 3 months down the line, you realize that this was not the right fit. And again, you are sending the same JD across to figure out what will happen if another person can come in. And perhaps what learning you have with this particular person, you will say that these are the have nots. And then you will send it across. This is how it happens. Now, if you look at this entire scenario, this is again, you are taking a very ad hoc approach. What happens is you must be knowing which are the organizations, which are the educational institutions which are working towards this particular field, which are the other startups from where they are actually getting these recruits. Can you actually go and have a word with them? Many educational institutions are nowadays open to actually open up to startups to actually give them an opportunity to present about their work. And if there are people who want to work with that, you can actually find that. When you are actually having those discussions, you will find there in a focused discussion, you will find maybe 1 or 2% of people who are genuinely interested in what you actually want to do. There, you can actually hire for the attitude and then the skills can be built up. Because they are focused and they know that what you want to work. But what happens is when we do not have an opportunity to interact with them, when finally we are taking an interview, we just tend to think whether they will be able to contribute through the skills. We check on their academic credentials and try to force fit them into the job. And that's where the failure happens.
Absolutely.
If we can actually map that, we can hire for that attitude. There are people who might want to leave a Google job and join you just because you had actually been able to nurture that attitude. But what happens is if that person is now leaving the job and you also think, okay, he has left, so I have to actually nurture him in such a way, and you start treating him so special that your other employees start feeling negative about it, then
Absolutely.
it's a negative situation. He had taken a personal choice to join you. Definitely, he had done a sacrifice. What you can do is, can you create a pathway which makes him towards that leadership journey which he had left in Google? And he can proudly say that my decision of leaving Google was not there. That is what you have to become. If you can become and you can attract that, then you do not have to do this firefight.
Thank you.
Thanks to him. Sujoy, you had asked a very interesting question on behavior versus skill. You're already there. Can you just unmute yourself and ask that question? थोड़ा explain करके पूछिए ना.
Yes, sure, Prasanna. Hi, Arnab.
Hi.
Yeah, my question was like there is a word like you can change the skill of your employee, but you can change the character of your employee. But there is some cases like for to do that project you need skilled person. So you find one skilled person. You need to hire them because whatever employees are there in your organization, they are not skillful for that particular role. So in such cases, that study how to take care of that like skilled person who is not good fit for your organization, means cultural things. How to deal with that?
So if a person does not actually culturally fits into an organization, however great skill that person might have, he will become the disruptor in your organization. That's the first point that you have to understand. What happens is we always have this scarcity mindset that, oh my God, this person is only having this skill. Therefore, if I do not recruit this, my organization will be in a huge soup. It never happens like that. Believe me, I had gone through 500 such organizations and I have seen that this is the mindset that actually leads you down to failure. Because what we tend to think is we have to hire this person because he is having the greatest skill. No one on earth has the greatest skill today. Understand this first. The skills are and the knowledge are at your fingertips now. What you need is those person who actually can have that mindset of, okay, I may not lack the particular skill right now, but I have the capability to take it up and contribute in such a way that your vision and my vision are aligned. You have to hire that person and not this highly talented and highly skilled quote unquote person.
Right.
I'll give you a simple example. I had a very interesting discussion with Ramakant Achrekar. He came to Calcutta once, and I was entrusted on behalf of my cricket coaching center to ask him about his question about the talent and skill. So his student Vinod Kamli, his student is Sachin Tendulkar. So he said that if you ask me frankly, I can tell you, Sachin will never map the talent that Vinod Kamli has. But if you ask me whom should I go to when I am hiring, I will go to Sachin. He gave a brilliant example. He said that Sachin one day was unable to play a particular shot, and I showed him how to play that so that the ball does not bounce into the air and you get caught. His brother next day came up to me and said, "Sir, yesterday night till 3 a.m., he was practicing this shot. Can you just check whether he has been able to perfect it?" That's the level of dedication and character that we want to bring in. However big talent you are, you will never be able to match this. And you need this sort of a person to contribute, because the talent will be clouded by your boasting, your other things. But at some point in time, if you have this character, you can bypass that talent through your sheer hard work. You need that person to contribute. You do not like similarly as a leader, you do not have to become that Saurav Ganguly of sorts. You have to become a team leader that your team needs. That is the important learning that you should take away.
Okay, thank you, Arnab.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arnab. And we'll just, I know we are 15 minutes over the time because there are so many questions. The conversation is so good. Nidhi, if you are there, can you just unmute and ask your second question, which is very interesting. We are talking about retaining or attracting talent. She's asking about how to fire people. So, but Nidhi, can you just unmute and ask that question? That would be great.
I'll ask. Uh, I was really excited for this session though, because it's like listening from Arnab is like one of the biggest thing I was looking forward to. But anyway,
Thank you.
I was asking that there is an often a thing that how to fire people, and if I want to crunch the workforce, it's a wrong hiring, because when we are in mental wellness space, I'm very sure most of the people think they are skilled enough to be a great listener, or they know that oftentimes I have taken sessions where people have said I am also a good enough to be a therapist or be a good person. So it becomes very challenging to fire people in that sense, where to tell them that it is also something which requires skill sets. So
Absolutely.
how to convey it to them in the best possible way. So as I am planning to have a listeners panel, I am like a lot of people pitched me, and I don't know how to say them no, because this requires skills.
You do not have to say no every time, right?
Yeah, that's what it is.
So what happens is it becomes very difficult for many people when it comes to taking tough decisions and communicating it. At times you feel there is a fear that this person might become negative and this person might throw away something which might not be in line with what you think is correct. But imagine the situation that this person has been hired, and because you have not been able to say that you are not the right fit, you had ultimately hired that person and given that person to perform something. And when that person is either facing a client or contributing towards an important project, they do a bigger disruption. When the client comes and tells you that, Nidhi, I was not looking for this sort of a service from your side, what will be your mindset at that point in time? Think through it first.
It's a strong decision then.
It's a strong decision at that point in time, right? And at that point in time, what happens is the immediate reaction is a reactionary response rather than a positive response that could have happened earlier. So this is the delay that we keep on doing, thinking that I have to be too good in front of everybody. You do not have to be the best in front of everybody. See, certain things does not work out, and you have to communicate plain and simple that this is not working out. I think yes, you might be a great fit, but you are not great fit for me, which I can figure out. You might think that you are the great fit for me, but I feel I am not. And when I feel I cannot take this decision, so because in that case, even if you are a great fit, I will not be able to match up with you. So that's why I think it is better to have a good relationship rather than have creation where we do not see each other's face. Let us part ways, but part ways amicably. That is a better option to say transparently that it is not working out.
Also, I have another question. When I work with fellow people who are into mental wellness space, there is a large chances of being called as competitor, which is that is something which I often hear. When psychiatrists and psychologists also have a lot of competition among themselves, and two mental wellness organizations don't want to work together as well. I don't know, like if I tend to text them and we looking forward to collaborate, what skill set should I find in a other organization or the founder that I should go ahead with collaborating with them?
Complementary aspect again. It is not that if somebody is already taking you as the competition and in a seasoned space thinking that when you are starting out, you are his competition and therefore he or she does not want to collaborate with you, then a deep sense of insecurity is working with them. That insecurity cannot be translated into a good collaborative work. But what happens is sometimes we tend to mismatch a negativity with toxicity. Sometimes there are good people with good intentions who are also negative. They say that Nidhi, it might not work out, thinking that if Nidhi fails, then it would hurt Nidhi. You have to work that out backward. If this is the person I'm talking to, or am I talking to a person who is toxic enough because whatever I'm trying to do, this person is trying to be the disruptor and trying to create some sort of adversity in my work. If that is that person, that toxicity needs to be definitely moved away from your life. But if there are people who are concerned about you and that's why negative, definitely you can nurture that relationship.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nidhi, for the question. Fantastic. From an employee, now we'll basically talk. Ashish has an interesting question about the vendors, right? So they are also partners in the journey. So Ashish, if you can just unmute and ask the question, that'd be great.
Yeah. Thank you, Prasanna. Hi, Arnab sir.
Hi.
My question is, we are currently onboarding some local vendors like puja flower suppliers and other traditional artisans who are making the topper mukut and other handcrafted items. So if we want to hire them or onboard them in a company for long-term journey, so how we can implement to ensure their long-term associate so that they can't leave or they will not go to a different company if they will give them some extra money or any other thing. So how we can keep them?
Again, the same thing applies here as well, that you have to actually have some sort of a entitlement feeling needs to go away. You do not just by onboarding a particular vendor, you cannot guarantee their loyalty.
Yeah.
Do not have that in mind that, okay, since I have onboarded them and I am actually guaranteeing them a few sale, they should be loyal to me. Nobody is loyal in today's world. Let's face it. Now, when you know this, then your approach will be different. When you're onboarding a vendor, you have to look for what sort of time frame and what sort of volumes are you looking at from them, and whether they are committal towards those sort of time frames as well as the payment commitments.
Okay.
If they are actually following that in your first short-term goal, maybe your first short-term goal is 6 months. I'm just saying, for example, don't take it as a casting stone, but for example, 6 months is your short-term goal. In the 6 months, there will be 20 cycles. And in these 20 cycles, how much commitment has come from their side, even if perhaps one or two times you have also felt? Are they still sticking to you? Even after paying, are they still once ready to give without a credit? Or they are ensuring that no, you have to do it. But when they ensure that you pay, they also deliver on time. They are that committed. Is it working like that? These are the few steps that you need to follow for your first circle. Once that happens, your next goal would be to look at a 2-year horizon, how it is shaping up.
Okay.
If that is happening, then you think of creating a long-term contract, or else how the 6 monthly it is going, let it go. You are getting your job done. That is important. Your job is not to figure out whether they are going to stay with me long term. Do I have an alternative plan? Can I source it from them? And that source actually helps me on my particular timely delivery is what you should be looking at.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. I think the last few questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Anindya Chakraborty, you're there. Now, this is very interesting. This is again from, now we have talked about founders and everyone. Now, from the employee side, how to think about this from an employee side, right? This is very interesting. So, Anindya, you're there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Oh, fantastic. Over to you.
Arun, great to hear your voice, but I couldn't see you.
Just home things.
Okay,
Yeah.
please go
Yeah.
ahead.
So a small question, which is like typically what happens is when like a founder raises funds and all, employees like people who are looking to join the company go and talk, yes, I am doing these and that things, and I think I can contribute. This is how I have done and all those kind of things. But how can we like switch on that reverse mindset, like reverse set, that you become so good like with your skill sets and your like networks and your peers, so that great founders who are building new companies can look up to you, or should like contact you. Ki, "Acha, I think this is the person who can be a very valuable asset to my company. So at least let me give him a shot. At least let me have a conversation with him or her, so that I can try to hire him or her. I don't know, like I will be successful or not, but how to be that from a LinkedIn point of view in general, and like how to build that personal brand. That is my question.
Yeah, a very interesting point. And in fact, this question you should be answering first because you have built a good personal brand on LinkedIn. But nevertheless, since you asked that question, it's a very interesting question. What generally will actually differentiate between a normal employee and somebody who the founder should be looking to hire is the point of intrapreneurship that I was discussing. If you can figure out somebody, if you can become somebody like Ken Kuratagi. Ken Kuratagi was an employee of Sony Corporation. He was so obsessed while playing with his daughter using the Nintendo, he figured out that this is not working well. So he created a project out of it, submitted it to Sony Corporation, and said that if you allocate a team and resources, I am ready to take the onus and responsibility to create something which can be far better than this Nintendo. Sony Corporation believed in him. He was allocated the funds and the resources. He built his entire team. He built the project, and he shifted Sony to the top of that particular market by creating Sony PlayStation. This sort of an employee mindset is what we are looking at when we say that, okay, a founder should go and search for these sort of people who have this intrapreneurial capability. And that's why I always define entrepreneurship as a mindset and not as something to do with starting or launching a business. If you have this sort of a mindset where you know, okay, if I am given a constructive feedback, this is my opportunity to learn, rather than thinking my intelligence is completely fixed. And since I am intelligent, I have nothing to learn. This is where you will be looking at. People are now hiring from those perspectives that, okay, this particular person will rather contribute towards more growth for my vision rather than be just a 9 to 5 guy who comes in and thinks that, okay, 9 to 5 is my time with the company. After 5, this is my time with my family, and therefore if there is any sort of chaotic or anything that comes up from the founder, you will feel, oh, then this is not the place for me to work. We are not looking for those people. We're looking for those people who are actually having this particular mindset, where I am also having an entrepreneurial mind, but I do not want to take up the entire responsibility of starting a startup. Those are the people. That's why the employee term is getting blurred nowadays. You will see more and more Google, they are not recruiting with a lot of higher educational institutions. They're looking for this sort of people. If you go to Microsoft, the same is happening. Even McKinsey just laid off many people because they felt that the consulting job now being utilized by the generative AIs and all, those are the people who are not trying to contribute, thinking that we are a white collar consultant and nothing to learn. Though McKinsey has laid off, McKinsey is still recruiting more people this year. Why is it so? It is because of this mindset. You have to create that mindset, and if you can create that mindset and personal brand, believe me, there are people who will actually run after you from the employee perspective.
Thank you, Arnab, for the answer.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. So Arnabda, before now that we have come to the end of the questions, as of now, I'll hand this over to Tanya. Tanya and Arun, if you guys can just take it to a closure, that'd be great.
Thank you, Arnab.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Arnab. Such a wonderful session, and I have a lot of questions from the employee side, like Anindo. Actually, I think I will require a full long session on that. Okay, how to manage the boss? That would be my question, actually, if you ask me. But yes, I would like to tell all the participants that there is a book written by Arnab on the productivity code. Please go through it. Arnab, I don't know where it is available. Is it available in Amazon?
This is only time that since you have requested me, I have put it up. It will be available from me only now.
Okay. So do share the link, sir.
Sure. I will do that.
Then we will pass it on, and we all look forward to this book. And Arun, I would love to hear from you how you found the session. Anything else that you would like to add?
Always good to hear Arnab. He being our darling, always ready to lend his ear, always ready to lend his support. But again, coming back to the conclusion, right? So one thing that I observed in today's session is the commonality of these startups being hell-bent on the student side. In Chaigram, we have hired so many guys and they left their job, higher paying job. They joined us because they weren't satisfied with their jobs or office politics. So we heard them out, we gave them some motivation, and they are doing wonders. So if I have to bundle up or sum up in 3 parts, I love backtesting, be it backtesting my stock market stuff or my entrepreneurial journey, or guys who are sticking around, or guys who have stayed around for the last 3 years. So we did a survey, and what we found out was, number one, the guys who have been part of Chaigram, the guys who are sticking around, right? So they weren't the smartest, but they were always high on the determination side, but low on the skill side. They had certain limitations, but they were smart enough, right? So they stayed put. The second guys were seniors, right? Say if I can take the book out of a movie called The Interns, it's a much watch for everyone, right? Robert De Niro did a fine part. So if you could spot say 50, 60 plus guys, they are pretty content with life. Money doesn't motivate them at all, but they have got all the rich experience in the world. So if you could meet them, tell your vision, talk through your stories, there's a high chance that those guys can land in your organization and do a much superior stuff than the greedy freshers.
Absolutely.
And third part where just to sum up, we gave free hand to the smartest ones. And again we did a survey, and what we found out was they just wanted to be the highest paid employees. So there are a couple of folks in our organization, they are doing a killing work and we pay them much more than our MD. So this is their motivation that, okay, you pay us this salary. I don't want, to draw a salary, which would put me among the subordinates in a higher company. I want to be the highest paid employee in your organization and I'm going to deliver. So be it. We are happy to forego our salaries. Return on intangibles is something we deeply discount. So if we can pay a bit of heat in that, chances are that amazing things would happen. So these are my observations, and Arnab, you nailed it. Very, very happy with the session today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So with that, Tanya, anything else in terms of closing remarks?
No, not really. There will be a lucky draw, amongst the participants, and we will be handing over Arnab's book, as well as there will be a book, from 𝐶𝐲, and also, a hand painting by Moti. So this is for all the participants. Thank you, everybody, for joining the session. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Arnab.
Thank you so much, Arnab. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Anu.